Have you ever looked at your AWS account and felt like it's just a tangled mess of resources? Yeah, you are not alone. Today, we're going to dive into a really simple but incredibly powerful tool for bringing some serious order to that chaos: tagging.
So, does this sound familiar? You crack open your monthly AWS bill and it's just a giant, mysterious number. Or maybe you're playing detective, trying to figure out which resources belong to which project. These are classic signs, my friends, that your cloud environment needs a little organization.
Okay, let's just call it what it is: the chaos of the cloud. As our apps get bigger, we add more API gateway endpoints, we deploy to new stages, we connect to more services, and what starts out all neat and tidy can get out of hand fast.
And that chaos, it leads to some very real headaches, like who owns the cost for this API? How do we give a new developer access to only the dev environment? And how in the world do I find the CloudWatch rule that goes with this specific API gateway stage? I mean, these problems slow us down and they create a ton of risk.
But there is a solution, and it's actually beautifully simple. Tags. Tags are your organizing superpower. Seriously, just think of them as digital sticky notes you can slap onto pretty much any AWS resource. It brings instant clarity and control.
So what is a tag, really? It's just a simple label with two parts, a key and a value. The key is like the category, say environment, and the value is the specific info, like production. Now, the most important thing to burn into your brain right now is that both the key and the value are case sensitive. Super important.
And that case sensitivity is exactly why consistency is everything. Look at this. An inconsistent strategy with a mix of cases and weird abbreviations, like you see on the right, it will completely undermine everything you're trying to do. It makes automation and reporting a nightmare. So the crucial takeaway is simple. Decide on a clear, consistent way to name things and make sure everybody on your team sticks to it.
All right, so now we know what tags are and why we have to be consistent. Let's get to the good stuff. Why should you even bother? Well, tagging basically gives you three primary superpowers for managing your AWS resources. And those superpowers are controlling access, tracking costs, and organizing everything. Let's break down each one. First up, access control. This is huge. Instead of writing these crazy long IAM policies based on specific resource names, you can just use tags. This lets you write simple, readable rules. Stuff like, hey, allow developers to only touch resources that have the tag environment development. It is so much more scalable and honestly, just easier to understand.
Number two, tracking costs. For anyone managing cloud spending, FinOps, this is a game changer. By tagging your resources with something like a cost center or project key, you can just flip a switch in the AWS billing dashboard, and poof, you get these clear, detailed reports showing you exactly where every single dollar is going. No more mystery bills.
And third, organization. Let's be real. Our apps are built from a ton of different services. With tags, you can use the same tag, like Project Bluebird, on an API gateway, a Lambda function, and a DynamoDB table. And just like that, you can instantly see all the pieces of a single application. It makes finding and managing everything so much easier. Okay, so we've covered the why. You're probably on board. Now let's switch gears to the how. Before you go on a tagging spree, there are a few key rules and limitations you've got to know.
These are the fundamentals. You get 50 tags per resource max. Each key has to be unique for that specific resource. You can't have two environment keys on the same API, for example. There are some character limits, as you can see, and this one's a biggie. You can't use the AWS prefix. That's reserved for Amazon's internal stuff. Just keep these in mind so you don't run into any weird errors.
So in API Gateway, what can you actually attach these tags to? Well, you can tag the big stuff, like your APIs themselves, your stages, and any custom domain names you're using. This is going to be where you apply most of your high-level tags for cost and access control.
Now for a really cool but slightly tricky concept, tag inheritance. In some cases, tags you put on a parent resource can get passed down to its children. But, and this is a big but, there's a critical rule about how this works that you absolutely have to understand.
Let's walk through it. Imagine your main API has a tag, foo.bar. Its child, the stage, automatically inherits this tag. Okay, simple enough. But then you go and you directly apply a different tag to the stage, foo.bar2. So which one wins? The answer is bar2. And this shows you the golden rule.
A tag you set directly on a resource always wins. It overrides whatever it inherited.
And here it is. This is probably the single most important catch you need to remember about inheritance. This feature is only for access control with your IAM policies. That's it. Inherited tags will not show up in your cost allocation reports. This is such a common mistake. For cost tracking, you have to tag each and every resource directly. Don't get caught by this one.
All right, let's put all this theory into practice. We're going to look at some real-world IAM policies to see just how tags can give you that precise, powerful control over your API gateway resources.
So here's a classic and totally critical scenario. You want to make absolutely sure that nobody, not accidentally, not intentionally, can modify or delete your production environment. How do you lock it down tight?
Well, the solution is a policy that looks just like this one. Notice it's a deny policy, and all the magic happens down in that condition block. This is where we check the resource's tags to decide if we should block the action.
Let's break that down. It's actually really simple. This condition just looks at the tags on whatever resource someone is trying to mess with. If it finds a tag with the key environment and the value prod, the action is denied. Full stop. It's such a powerful and simple way to build a safety net around your most important stuff.
Okay, now let's flip that scenario around. What if you want to make sure a specific user, maybe a junior dev or a contractor, can only work in the development environment? You want to make sure they can't touch anything else.
This time, we use an allow policy with a very similar condition. This policy is basically saying a user can perform API gateway actions, but, and here's the kicker, only if the resource has the environment tag set to development. This is a fantastic way to create a sandbox for a user or a role inside a specific environment.
We've covered what tags are, why they are absolutely essential for control, costs, and organization, and how you can use them in your security policies. You know, the system itself is simple, but the impact is profound. So that really just leaves one question for you. What's the first rule you're going to set up for your team to start building a cleaner, more secure cloud?